shape. For whatever it is we are about to become and be, to announce itself. This was different. There was, I supposed, no next thing. Now I stirred, shifted my weight. My husband turned. No aspect of his face not dear to me. "Hurting?" he asked. And with that, as quickly as it had come over me, the moment ended. I was back, solidly in time, exactly where we were. "A little," I said. "We'll head back." "Are you sure?" "I've got two reasonable ones. I'm a happy man." He began to reel his line in. I turned and stretched. "How nice to be a happy man," I said. He looked over his shoulder at me to get my tone. "It is nice," he said. "And I meant it," I answered. As we rode back, as we drove home, I found myself wanting to tell my husband about my feeling, but then not knowing what to call it. The shadow of it lingered with me, but I didn't say anything to Daniel. He would hear it as a want, a need. He would feel called upon to offer comfort. Daniel is a minister, a preacher, a pastor. His business is the care of his flock. His medium is words, thrilling words, admonishing or consoling words. I knew he could console me, but consolation wasn't what I felt I wanted. And so we drove along in silence too, and I looked out the window at the back roads. We lived in the center of town, an old, old town. Adams Mills. The Adamses long dead, the mills long burned down. Our house was a simple square farmhouse, added onto repeatedly at the back of the first floor over the years, as was the custom then with these old New England homes. We had an unpainted barn behind it, and behind that was a small meadow which turned to pine woods at the far edge. We used the barn as a garage now, and Daniel had his study out there in a small heated room at the back. We turned into our drive and pulled up next to the horse chestnut that shaded the dooryard. It dropped its leaves early every year. They littered the yard now, and our feet made a crunching noise on them as we crossed to the back door. The nearly bare ancient branches, twisted blackly above us in the dusky light, made me think of winter. When we opened the door, the house was silent. Daniel began to put his gear away in the spare room off the hall, speaking loudly as he clattered around. "Boy, it sure is nice to have dogs. Dogs are so great, how they come running to greet you when you get home, how they make you feel like you count, even when you don't." When I came out a few minutes later, all three dogs had finally bestirred themselves from wherever they'd been nesting and were whacking their happy tails around the kitchen. Daniel was cleaning his fish at the sink, the smell already suffused the air, and there was hope of food for them. Nothing excited them more. They barely greeted me. The answering machine was blinking. I turned it on. There were 3 messages, all for Daniel, which was the way it usually went, except when I was on call. I'm a veterinarian, and the crises among animals, less complex, more manageable than those of humans, are actually very much a part of my choice of profession. Daniel had turned slightly from the counter to listen to the calls, and I watched his face as he took them in. One about relocating a confirmation class because of a scheduling conflict. One from Morty, his assistant pastor, reporting on the worsening state of a dying parishioner Daniel was very fond of, a young mother with cancer. One from another minister, suggesting he and Daniel try to pull something together among their colleagues about some racial incidents in the 3 closely adjoining towns around us. Daniel's face was thin and sharp and intelligent, his eyes a pale gray blue, his skin white and taut. I'd always loved looking at him. He registered everything quickly, transparently. With these calls, first annoyance, then the sag of sorrow, then a nod of judicious agreement. But there was something finely self-contained about him, too. I'd often thought this was what made him so good at what he did, that he held on to some part of himself through everything, that he could hear 3 calls like this, and be utterly responsive to each of them, and then turn back and finish cleaning his trout, as he did now. Will you go?